I'm with our UGA insider, Radi Nabulsi, ahead of National Championship Week. Man, we've talked every single week during this season, and we've got to the point that we might have expected them to be at in the National Championship game. Have you finally calmed down after what was an insane college football semifinal?
No, and here's the thing. Going into that game, I was telling everybody, got a bad feeling about this one. Georgia's going to lose. All the Las Vegas Sharps come in at the last second on Ohio State. They know something we don't know. And Georgia gave up 500 yards of offense to LSU's backup quarterback. That amalgamation of nerves kicked in. And then when Georgia's trailing a couple of times by 14 points, I'm like, I told y'all. And it was probably the greatest game I've seen since the Rose Bowl, and maybe better than that one. Just two heavyweights going at it back to back. Amazing plays made by everybody. It's going to be tough, and I really think that the ratings are going to show it. I don't think a lot of people are excited about this matchup, and that's nothing against TCU or nothing against Georgia. But last year Georgia was the underdog, and everybody wanted to see them in their rematch. But and there's the TCU's a Cinderella this game. But after in both title games, both semifinal playoff games, the TCU-Michigan game was a great game. That went back and forth. That was just a great weekend of football, and I think it's going to take us maybe 5-6 days to get over it.
What was maybe the biggest thing that stood out to you about how Georgia performed? It felt like they, maybe from the outside, and at least me in the press box, I'm not sure how you felt. I thought the game was over at multiple points in this game, but the fake punt that they end up calling a timeout before, the first down with Brock Bowers, both those kind of going their way, and they're able to pull out a crazy win like they did last night. Roddy, what was maybe the biggest thing that stood out to you from that game?
I mean, it was the names that you weren't really expecting. To see Arian Smith have the best game of his career, 3 huge catches. I think the guy only had 3 catches all year, or something like that. For him to come up with 100+ yards, Javon Bullard, a guy that was getting torched in the first half. He's having some, and they all did. Give Ohio State all the credit, and C.J. Stroud played his best game. They were just giving Georgia secondary fits, but Javon Bullard just taking it to Marvin Harrison and a bunch of other players. He made big plays all over the place. To see A.D. Mitchell, we haven't seen him play all year. A.D. Mitchell has another game-winning touchdown catch. Just the guys that you were out. Darnell Washington comes out. Oscar Delp, true freshman, comes in and plays big. Michael Williams was the only one getting pressure, another true freshman. Malachi Starks, doing the work he did. It was just, it sounds like a cliche to say it was a team win, but it was absolutely a team win, because when you lose, your first, second, third best outside rushers against C.J. Stroud, you have to lean on some new guys. When they left the stadium and on their way back to Athens, there wasn't anybody on the team that can be looking at the guys next to them going, y'all did a good job, but I wasn't really involved. Now, that was a team win top to bottom.
You mentioned it being a team win. It's interesting. All season long, it feels like Kirby Smart has put this team in perspective as not a squad that has maybe stars, but has a bunch of guys that can do their job well. Is that kind of the epitome of what this team is, what we saw on Saturday?
It is. Brock Bowers is a star. Stetson Bennett's a star. Jalen Carter is a superstar. They're there, but it is. We've seen has this. We're looking ahead to TCU. Will Quentin Johnson be able to play? What's the status of Moore, their running back? Will you get Warren McClendon back for Georgia? Ladd McConkey was out. What happens when you get this far into the season is attrition. Guys get hurt. Guys are out. When Kirby was getting mad with us last week because everything we kept asking about was, what's the status of Ladd McConkey, your number 1 wide receiver? What's the status of your starting right tackle, Warren McClendon? It's the same when it comes to these guys. It's the attrition it's so important, to have guys who can step up and take over those spots to win you games. And when Amarius Mims rolls out there, that right guard spot, and keeps, Stetson Bennett upright, that's big.
I'm curious as well. A lot of people on paper, and of course, Twitter's not a real place, but naturally, a lot of the conversation, a lot of the eyes were on Keely Ringo and how he covered in that game. You look at some of the stats, he actually played better than maybe people thought of, but when you look at it with your eyes, it didn't pass the eye test. What did you kind of see from him in this game? And is that something that this Georgia team should be worried about heading into a matchup versus TCU that, of course, is different than Ohio State, but he'll still have to cover?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like I said, Quentin Johnson, he's another Marvin Harrison. He's maybe not that good. And Harrison did have 2 passes he dropped with Keely Ringo and a trail technique behind him, and I think it was slants. If he catches those, then he pads his numbers even more. great wide receivers are going to make plays. But, Keely Ringo has a short memory. He doesn't sit there and stew over anybody that catches a pass on him. He also makes big plays. He makes big tackles. He's great in run support. And he's going to be a top, it's going to be a first round draft pick. He's really good. The problem is we expect Keely to be perfect. Anybody catches a pass on him, we're like, oh, overrated. Like, no, go to the NFL. Guys give up passes all the time. So that is concern. Max Duggan's a bigger concern. This is a guy who midway through the season, I said, this is the best quarterback in college football right now. And for my 2 cents, just the fact that he can take off and run, he can make those throws. He's maybe a bigger Stetson Bennett. He's just tough. He wants to win. He has that heart of a champion. He's going to make great throws. He's going to take off and run it. And you just can't account for him. That's going to give Georgia troubles when they have a great running game. TCU actually runs the ball better than they throw it. And you have to account for that running quarterback. The biggest problem Georgia's had, you saw how they worked for the entire year, worried about Hendon Hooker at Tennessee because he could take off and run. That's going to give them trouble. And then facing that 3-3-5 they run, that's also given Georgia trouble, Georgia's offense trouble. But Georgia's a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. Kirby's not acting like that. He's in his office, treated this like it is the biggest game of the year. And I want to say one other thing real quick. We keep saying we haven't seen their best game yet. We haven't seen their best game yet. They obviously didn't play their best game against Ohio State. I think maybe we did see their best game. It was week 1. But Georgia at 80-90% is still pretty darn good.
I'm curious, for us down in SEC country, we're not watching a lot of Big 12 football. We're not watching a lot of TCU. So for a lot of people, their first real opportunity to check out TCU was against Michigan over the weekend. What do you think that people learned or people saw in that game that maybe they can do against Georgia, considering many people thought that Georgia and Michigan were the two sides that were very similar?
Oh, yeah, everybody did. You got to look at a team that when they play that 3-3-5, you think that that defense, you can run on that defense. No, those kids hit. If you walked away with one thing from that Michigan TCU game, you had to walk away with respect for TCU. They hit like a ton of bricks. Everybody's talking about how, Javon Bullard knocked out Marvin Harrison and just how guys were getting hurt on both sides. Both teams were very physical. The knock on Ohio State was that they were not the big bullies that Georgia is. Ohio State played a very physical game, and TCU had been disrespected for an entire month. And they came in there ready to fight, and they're going to do it again. They haven't won a title since 1938. These kids believe in Sonny Dykes. They believe in their system. They believe in their quarterbacks and their defense. You've got a great left guard. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a top pick. They've got a defensive end, big tackle who was absolutely murdering the Michigan line. This is supposed to be the best offensive line in the country, and he was just abusing them. So I'm just saying that don't think that, it's TCU. Kirby beat them once in a bowl game. Your 2 touchdown favorites. This is in the bag. That team is here to play. This isn't your granddad's TCU team.
What does prep this week look like for Georgia? And when are they getting out to Los Angeles? And what does the schedule look like for them as they prepare for the national championship game?
I'm pretty sure they kicked them out of the building today, saying, look, go get a rest. You need a break. Just as we were talking about when we opened this, the emotional toll of that game was big. And they need a break. They've been working on it for so long. Just go recharge. Stay at home. Go visit your folks. Do whatever you can. Come back, get ready to work. And they'll have their walkthroughs probably today or tomorrow. Then they will do they'll have their Bloody Tuesday, which we know is rough. They'll probably have that Wednesday or so. They've got to be careful about getting anybody hurt. It's the last game, but you still have to go good on good. You still have to rep those plays. So you want to be very careful there. You got to try to get Darnell Washington back, Ladd McConkey back, Warren McClendon back. So you take those guys, kit gloves and try to get them through it. Friday after practice, they fly out to Los Angeles. So then they'll have a Saturday morning. There'll be a open press situation like we had with the Peach Bowl where we could talk to everybody. Saturday afternoon, they have a practice. Sunday's walkthrough, Monday's the game.
Very busy. Radi, before we go, I feel like I'd be remiss not to ask you about, I guess, the potential implications of what a second straight national championship would look like for this Georgia team, these players on this roster, and of course Kirby Smart. I think I'm curious. Of course, it's early. They have to, of course, win the game. They're 2 touchdown favorites, but what does a second straight national championship do for the legacy of Kirby Smart and for Stetson Bennett?
I tell people this all the time. when I write a column, I say, look, look around, enjoy this moment in Georgia football. You long-suffering Georgia fans who went 41 years without a title, who went 20 years without an SEC title, who you feel like you're a blue blood, but other programs, other fans don't see you as that. They don't care about 1980. Half of them weren't alive then. They just don't see it with the same way you do. And that's going to be said of a lot of programs. That can be said about Auburn and Wisconsin and Nebraska, who were once great programs who just aren't winning at that. You still feel that you should be in the title hunt every year. Kirby's been here 7 years. This will be the third national title he's played for. Stetson Bennett will be on all three of those teams. He was there in 2017, but pretending to be Baker Mayfield on the scout team. So it's the guy that just received 9 types of hell for being the starter last year when everybody wanted JT Daniels, wins you a title. If he wins you 2, and then Kirby wins 2, and you take it from being the golden age that you should absolutely love, stop, smell the roses, buy all the gear, just bask in the fun that you're having. The 2022, if you go back for the entire calendar year, remember they played Alabama first few days of January. Georgia played 15 football games in the 2022 calendar year. They went 15-0. They beat Ohio State and Clemson in the same year. That is a golden age, but it's not a dynasty. Win 2, then you can call it a dynasty because you've played for 3, you've won 2 of them were back-to-back. Now you're up there in the conversations with the Nick Sabans of the world.
Man, it's going to be a lot of fun this upcoming weekend. We're going to Los Angeles. I'm going to be there. Roddy, you're going to be there.
Yes. We're going to Vegas first. We need to lay some bets on this game before we head over to Los Angeles.
Be careful about those parlays, man. You never know.
Yeah, you gotta do what you got. Hey, I gotta pay for this trip somehow, so I need to go hit the craps table and win big.
Awesome, Roddy. Thank you so much for your time, man. And Georgia versus TCU for the national title next Monday.